Good morning. Happy New Year to all of you, and welcome to another chapter of the Krishna book reading. My name is Janapati Das. Thank you so much for joining me and continuing to support these videos by sharing and liking and subscribing to my channel. As usual, we are going to start with our hearing and chanting of Krishna's holy names. So please join in. Krishna Putale Srimate Swarupananda Paramahamsa iti namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Putale Srimate Swarupananda Paramahamsa iti namine Hari Bol Nitago Nitago Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitago Nitago Hari Bol Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Okay, Haribol. So I was reading last time, we were just finishing up the prayers, the wonderful chapter of Lord Brahma praying to Lord Krishna. And now we're going to get into the other story. So as we've known, Lord Brahma subsequently figuring out the situation, as you recall, realizing that how insignificant living entity he is, even though he is the greatest living entity in this universe. He is so minuscule compared to his mystic powers, and his abilities are so small compared to the Supreme Lord, and let alone any common man in this world, be they Elon Musk or Saddam Hussein or some Putin or whoever it might be, Brad Pitt, some very popular person, are so insignificant compared to Lord Brahma, let alone what the living entity. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're just going to get right into it here. The next chapter of the Krishna book is entitled, this chapter 15, entitled The Killing of Denakasura. All right. As you recall, Asura means one who, Sura is someone who is very saintly, like a demigod. And when you put an A in front of the word, and just like very similar to English, when you put an A, it flips it. Like you have theist and atheist. So someone who believes in God and someone who doesn't believe in God, right? So in this case, Asura is a demoniac person or a demon. In this way, Sri Krishna, along with his elder brother Balaram, passed the childhood age known as Kaumara and stepped into the age of Pauganda from the 6th year up to the 10th. At that time, all the cowherd men conferred and agreed to give those boys who had passed their 5th year charge of the cows in the pasturing grounds. So you remember the people in Vrindavan were Vaishya in the Varna system. Sorry, I was trying to Varna, what is it called? The Varnashram system has, the Varna system, the Varnashram system in the Vedic tradition are the different sort of occupational situations. So in Vaishya, you have Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So Vaishya is like a mercantile, like cow herders and farmers, people who take care of growing crops and dealing and selling. So these were Vaishyas, and in this age, of course, the boys would be out herding the cows, and this is what they do. Given charge of the cows, Krishna and Balaram traversed Vrindavan, purifying the land with their footprints. Accompanied by the cowherd boys and Balaram, Krishna brought forward the cows and played on his flute through the forest of Vrindavan, which was full of flowers, vegetables, and pasturing grass. The Vrindavan flowers was as sanctified as the clear mind of a devotee, and was full of bees, flowers, and fruits. That's so beautiful. I want to read that again. The Vrindavan forest was as sanctified as the clear mind of a devotee, and was full of bees, flowers, and fruits. It's so wonderful. Just put that one on my wall and look at it every day. There were chirping birds and clear water lakes with waters that could relieve one of all fatigues. Sweet flavored breezes blew always, refreshing the mind and body. Krishna, with his friends and Balaram, entered the forest and, seeing the favorable situation, enjoyed the atmosphere to the fullest extent. Krishna saw all the trees overloaded with fruits and fresh twigs, coming down to touch the ground as if welcoming him by touching his lotus feet. He was very pleased by the behavior of the trees, fruits, and flowers, and he began to smile, realizing their desires. Krishna then spoke to his elder brother Balaram as follows: "My dear brother, you are superior to all of us, and your lotus feet are worshipped by the demigods. Just see how these trees full of fruits have bent down to worship your lotus feet. It appears that they are trying to get out of the darkness of being obliged to accept the form of trees." So it's often said that people who are born into trees, because trees are considered to be in the mode of ignorance or very lethargy, because they have to be in a stationary position for very long. They're in high mode of ignorance. So those people that cultivate the mode of ignorance through whatever situation, might be a lot of like laziness, sleeping, heavy intoxication, and drug use, they will be, there's a whole list of things, foods, and activities done in the mode of ignorance. And people who are heavily into these kinds of activities, if they die in that mode, they will be reborn as a tree oftentimes. Actually, the trees born in the land of Vrindavan are not ordinary living entities. Having held the impersonal point of view in their past lives, they are now put into this stationary condition of life. But now they have the opportunity of seeing you in Vrindavan, and they are praying for further advancement in spiritual life through your personal association. Generally, the trees are living entities in the modes of darkness. The impersonalist philosophers are in that darkness, but they eradicate it by taking full advantage of your presence. It's a darkness because people who are in the Mayavadi philosophy or impersonal philosophy of yoga, they ultimately deny the existence of God because they themselves see themselves as God, actually. So it's just a monistic way of looking at philosophy, and because of that, there's no loving relationship with God. They've just deemed themselves, and basically they're atheists because they're denying the existence of God by claiming that they are God. But they eradicate it by taking full advantage of your presence. I think the drones that are buzzing all around you must have been your devotees in their past lives. They cannot leave your company because no one can be a better, more affectionate master than you. You are the supreme and original personality of Godhead, and the drones are just trying to spread your glories by chanting every moment. I think some of them must be great sages, devotees of your lordship, and they are disguising themselves in the form of drones because they are unable to give up your company even for a moment. My dear brother, you are the supreme worshipable Godhead. Just see how the peacocks in great ecstasy are dancing before you. The deer, whose behavior is just like the gopis, are welcoming you with the same affection. And the cuckoos who are residing in this forest are receiving you with great joy because they consider that your appearance is so auspicious in their home. So as we were saying that, the residents of Vrindavan are all having this loving relationship with Krishna. It's not just them, but it's everything in Vrindavan there is having a loving relationship with Krishna. All the animals, all the plants and creepers and the mountains and everything, the grasses, it's all trying to serve Krishna and making things wonderful for Krishna. It's very lovely. They are prepared to welcome you for their best capacity, as it is the practice of great souls in receiving another great soul at home. As for the land, it is so pious and fortunate that the footprints of your lotus feet are marking its body. It is quite natural for these Vrindavan inhabitants to thus receive a great personality like you. The herbs, creepers, and plants are also so fortunate to touch your lotus feet. And by your touching the twigs with your hands, these small plants are also made glorious. As for the hills and the rivers, they too are now glorious because you are glancing at them. Above all the damsels of Raja, the gopis, attracted by your beauty, are the most glorious because you embrace them with your strong arms. In this way, both Lord Krishna and Balaram began to enjoy the residents of Vrindavan to their full satisfaction, along with the calves and cows on the bank of the Jamuna. In some places, both Krishna and Balaram were accompanied by their friends. The boys were singing, imitating the humming sound of the drones, and accompanying Krishna and Balaram, who were garlanded with forest flowers. While walking, the boys sometimes imitated the quacking sound of the swans in the lakes, or when they saw the peacocks dancing, they imitated them before Krishna. Krishna also moved his neck, imitating and dancing and making his friends laugh. The cows taken care of by Krishna had different names, and Krishna would call them with love. After hearing Krishna calling, the cows would immediately respond by mooing, and the cows would enjoy this exchange to their heart's content. Excuse me. So, there was this passage in the last part of the Brahma talking about the relationship of the boys with their cows. So they would Krishna not only had names, all the boys had names for their cows, and they knew that each cow had a personality. They knew their cows very, very well. And this was really true about cow herders in general. I remember as a Peace Corps volunteer in West Africa, Gambia, the country of Gambia, I lived in a village of cow herders, and they would have different names in their language for different qualities of cows. And this cow was called this name because it had this kind of spots, and so they had categorized the names of this cow. But even more so with Krishna and his friends, they all had this loving relationship with their cows, and Krishna here would call out to the cows, and the cows would call back. And sometimes if you go back, and I don't know if there's any of the pictures here, if you see any pictures with Krishna and cows, the cows are all like fully engaged in the relationship with Krishna, just in love. It's very beautiful. A lot of pictures of cows with Krishna, of animals with Krishna. Krishna is the ultimate animal right activist. He loves all living entities. They would imitate the sound vibrations made by different kinds of birds, especially chakoras, peacocks, cuckoo, and bharadvajas. Sometimes when they would see the weaker animals fleeing out of the fear of the sounds of tigers and lions, the boys, along with Krishna and Balaram, would imitate the animals and run away with them. When they felt some fatigue, they would sit down, and Balaram would put his head on the lap of one of the boys just to take rest. And Krishna would immediately come and begin massaging the legs of Balaram. And sometimes he would take a palm fan and fan the body of Balaram, causing a pleasing breeze to relieve him of his fatigue. Other boys would sometimes dance or sing while Balaram took rest, and sometimes they would wrestle amongst themselves or jump. When the boys were thus engaged, Krishna would immediately join them, and catching their hands, he would enjoy their company and laugh and praise their activities. When Krishna would feel tired and fatigued, he would sometimes take shelter at the root of a big tree or on the lap of a cowherd boy and lie down. And when he would lie down with a boy or a root as his pillow, some of the boys would come and massage his legs, and some would fan his body with a fan made from leaves. Some of the more talented boys would sing in very sweet voices to please him. Thus, very soon his fatigue would go away. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, whose legs are tended by the Goddess of Fortune, shared himself with the cowherd boys as one of them, expanding his internal potency to appear exactly like a village boy. But despite his appearing just like a village boy, there were occasions when he proved himself to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes men pose themselves as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and cheat innocent people, but they can only cheat. They cannot exhibit the potency of God. So there was another point that we had brought up last time, was that there are a lot of people who claim themselves as incarnations of God or as incarnations of devotees of God. But we always ask them, can you lift the hill, like Govardhan Hill? Can you engage in the pastimes of killing demons, powerful demons, whirlwinds and putanas? And can you even create a universe, or what can you do other than they may have some mystic powers to make things appear, or they can sometimes have mystic powers to appear in two locations doing the same thing, and just they fool people. But if you want to be fooled, then you'll find a guru that will fool you, and these people are rascals and fools, because they claim something that they are not. While Krishna was thus engaged in exhibiting his internal potency along with the supermost fortunate friends, there occurred another chance for him to exhibit the superhuman powers of Godhead. His most intimate friends, Sridhama, Subala, and Shtoka Krishna, began to address Krishna and Balaram with great love and affection thus: "Dear Balaram, you are very powerful, your arms are very strong. Dear Krishna, you are very expert in killing all kinds of disturbing demons. Will you kindly note that just near this place there is a big forest of the name Talavan. This forest is full of palm trees, and all the trees are filled with fruits. Some are falling down, and some of them are very ripe, even in the trees. It is a very nice place, but because of a great demon, Denakasura, it is very difficult to go there. No one can reach the trees to collect the fruits. Dear Krishna and Balaram, this demon is present there in the form of an ass, and he is surrounded by similar demon friends who assume the same shape. All of them are very strong, so it is very difficult to approach this place. Dear brother, you are the only persons who can kill such demons. Other than you, no one can go there for fear of being killed. Not even animals can go there, and no birds are sleeping there. They have all left. One can only appreciate the sweet aroma that is coming from that place. It appears that up until now, no one has tasted the sweet fruits there, either on the tree or on the ground. Dear Krishna, to tell you frankly, we are very attracted by this sweet aroma. Dear Balaram, let us go there and enjoy these fruits. The aroma of the fruits is now spread everywhere. Don't you smell it from here?" So now they're like setting up the situation. Let's kill this demon so we can enjoy the fruits. This is very wonderful. Krishna and Balaram like, ooh, another chance to enjoy with our friends. When Balaram and Krishna were thus petitioned by their smiling, intimate friends, they were inclined to please them, and they began to proceed towards the forest, surrounded by all their friends. So this says they are inclined to please their devotees. Krishna and Balaram, they're always inclined to please their devotees, because the devotees do not ultimately want the pleasure of material things. They're not really interested in that. What they want is they want the love and association and service of their friends, of Krishna and Balaram. That's really what the devotees want. They want the love, and Krishna and Balaram love to give that back. And actually, they're very pleased. They're willing to offer any kind of benediction to a devotee in material way, but when they see that all that they want is the love, they are very pleased, and they give it to them, and then the devotees want to serve them even more. And so it's this loving exchange that goes on back and forth between the devotees and Krishna. It's very wonderful. Immediately upon entering the Talavan, Balaram began to yank the trees with his arms, exhibiting the strength of an elephant. So Bala, the word Bala means strength or strong. Balaram is the supreme personality of Godhead, Shankar's son. He has the whole weight of the universe on his hoods, and his expansion as Shankar's son. Balaram is a very powerful and wonderful expansion of Krishna. Because of this jerking, all the ripe fruits fell down on the ground. Upon hearing the sound of the falling fruits, the demon Denakasura, who was living there in the form of an ass, began to approach with great force, shaking the whole field so that all the trees began to move as if there were an earthquake. The demon appeared first before Balaram and began to kick his chest with his hind legs. At first Balaram did not say anything, but the demon with great anger began to kick him again more vehemently. So it's like, Balaram, it feels just like flowers coming in. Someone hits him in the chest, he's just like, oh, that's nice. This time, Balaram immediately caught hold of the legs of the ass with one hand and wheeling him around, threw him into the treetops. While he was being wheeled around by Balaram, the demon lost his life. Balaram threw the demon into the biggest palm tree about, and the demon's body was so heavy that the palm tree fell upon other trees and several fell down. It appeared as if a great hurricane had passed through the forest, and all the trees were falling down one after another. This exhibition of extraordinary strength is not astonishing because Balaram is a supreme personality of Godhead known as Ananta Sheshananga, who is holding all the planets on the hoods of his millions of heads. The whole cosmic manifestation is maintained by him, exactly as two threads holding the weaving of a cloth. After the demon was thrown into the trees, all the friends and associates of Denakasura immediately assembled and attacked Balaram and Krishna with great force. They were determined to retaliate and avenge the death of their friend, but Krishna and Balaram began to catch each of the asses by the hind legs and exactly in the same way wheeled them around. Thus they killed all of them by throwing them into the palm trees. Because of the dead bodies of the asses, there was a panoramic scene. It appeared as if clouds of various colors were assembled in the trees. Hearing of this great incident, the demigods from the higher planets began to shower flowers on Krishna and Balaram and began to beat their drums and offer devotional prayers. A few days after the killing of Denakasura, people began to come into the Talavan forest to collect the fruits, and animals began to return without fear to feed on these nice grasses grown there. Just by chanting or hearing these transcendental activities and pastimes of the brothers Krishna and Balaram, one can amass pious activities. So Bhaktivedanta Swami brings this up a lot in the stories about the benedictions of hearing the stories of Krishna. So it's very wonderful. We should always be continuously reading the stories of Krishna, reflecting upon them, and in this way we benefit spiritually. When Krishna and Balaram and their friends entered the village of Vrindavan, they played their flutes, and the boys praised their uncommon activities in the forest. Their faces were decorated with tilak. Tilak, of course, is a marking, and I think we read the story earlier where the gopis were praying to the different Vishnu forms, different expansions of Narayan, to protect different parts of the body. So the devotee will oftentimes mark their body with tilak. You can see sometimes the most common one is right at the forehead here, which looks sort of like a V. And then there are other parts of the body that have specific names of Vishnu to protect those parts of the body on the back. There's parts on the chest and in different locations on the leg and the arms. And so this is what we talk about when we talk about tilak. So they were decorated with tilak and smeared with the dust raised by the cows, and Krishna's head was decorated with a peacock feather. Both he and Balaram played their flutes, and the young gopis were joyous to see Krishna returning home. All the gopis in Vrindavan remained very morose on account of Krishna's absence. All day they were thinking of Krishna in the forest or of him herding cows in the pasture. In the morning, the cowherd boys are, woo, let's go with Krishna, and then the gopis are like, oh no, we're not going to see Krishna. But at night they see Krishna, and maybe they go off to the forest with Krishna. So they're thinking of him all day while they're absent. Both he and Balaram played their flutes, and the young gopis were joyous to see Krishna returning home. All the gopis in Vrindavan remained very morose on account of Krishna's absence. All day they were thinking of Krishna in the forest, or of him herding cows in the pasture. When they saw Krishna returning, all the anxieties were immediately relieved. All the anxieties are always relieved when we see Krishna. And they began to look at his face the way drones hover over the honey of a lotus flower, those bees, right? When Krishna entered the village, the young gopis smiled and laughed. Krishna, while playing the flute, enjoyed the beautiful smiling faces of the gopis. So we'll have to make this a little bit longer video. We only have one page left. Then Krishna and Balaram were immediately received by their affectionate mothers, Yashoda and Rohini, and according to time's demands, they began to fulfill the desires of their affectionate sons. Simultaneously, the mothers rendered service and bestowed benediction upon their transcendental sons. They very nicely took care of their children by bathing and dressing them. Krishna was dressed in bluish garments, and Balaram was dressed in yellow garments, and they were given all sorts of ornaments and flower garlands. Being relieved of the fatigue of their day's work in the pasturing grounds, they looked refreshed and very beautiful. They were given palatable dishes by their mothers, and they pleasantly ate everything. After eating, they were seated nicely on clean bedding, and their mothers began to sing various songs of their activities. As soon as they sat down on the bedding, they very quickly fell fast asleep. In this way, Krishna and Balaram used to enjoy Vrindavan life as cowherd boys. Sometimes Krishna used to go with his boyfriends and with Balaram, and sometimes he used to go alone with his friends to the bank of the Jamuna and tend the cows. Gradually, the summer season arrived, and one day while in the field, the boys and cows became very thirsty and began to drink the water of the Jamuna. The river, however, was made poisonous by the venom of a great serpent known as Kaliya. Because the water was so poisonous, the boys and cows became visibly affected. Immediately after drinking, they suddenly fell down on the ground, apparently dead. Then Krishna, who is the life of all lives, simply cast his merciful glance over them, and all the boys and cows regained consciousness and began to look at one another with great astonishment. They could understand that by drinking the water of the Jamuna they had died, and that the merciful glance of Krishna restored their life. Thus they appreciated the mystic power of Krishna, who is known as Yogeshvara, the master of all mystic yogis. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 15th chapter of Krishna, killing of Denakasura. And so, as you can see, we're getting into a new story about the Kaliya snake, and that'll be in the next chapter. So we're going to stop right now. We were able to read the whole chapter, which was really wonderful, and so many wonderful things: the killing of the Denakasura, donkeys, asses, and their runs, and being able to enjoy with their friends, and so much wonderful stories of the residents of Vrindavan engaging in loving service to Krishna. Always great to read these stories and reflect upon them. So we're going to hear and chant now. Thank you very much. Hari Bol. Okay, and that's all for today. Thank you very much. Have a happy new year, and we'll see you next time.